The knife pressed against Yongkwan's throat drew blood. 3 men. Professional. Silent. They'd materialized in his penthouse like ghosts, bypassing security that had cost millions to install. But Kwan didn't fight back, didn't call for help, just stood perfectly still as the blade bit into his skin, a thin line of crimson trickling down his neck. "You have 48 hours, the lead assassin whispered in flawless Korean. "Leave Amara Thompson alone, or your daughter loses her father. Permanently." Then they were gone, vanished as quickly as they'd appeared, leaving only a drop of blood on his marble floor and a message that changed everything. Someone was protecting Amara, someone with resources, someone who'd just made a catastrophic mistake, because threatening Yongkwan's child was the fastest way to unleash the monster he'd spent 3 years trying to bury. He touched his throat, fingers coming away red, smiled coldly at his reflection. Game on. 48 hours earlier. Amara's apartment was nothing like Kwan had imagined during his 3-year search. He'd pictured her in luxury, using his family's name to secure comfort. Instead, she lived in a modest 2-bedroom in Mapo district, the kind of building where families squeezed together and walls were thin enough to hear neighbors' conversations. But he hadn't found her through investigation. He'd found her by accident. A random hospital encounter. Fate or cruelty, he wasn't sure which. Now, after hiring the best investigator money could buy, he knew everything. She worked at a mid-tier design firm, lived paycheck to paycheck, had returned to Seoul exactly 2 months ago after 3 years in rural Japan, where she'd hidden under a false name, working cash jobs that left no paper trail. And she'd returned with triplets, 3 children, not 1, 2 boys and a girl, all 2.5 years old, all with his eyes, his features, his genetic signature written across their faces like a brand he'd unknowingly placed. The investigator's report sat on his desk, each page another knife to his conscience. Amara had been alone for the pregnancy, alone for the birth, alone for every midnight feeding, every childhood illness, every milestone. She'd raised his children in poverty while he drowned in wealth and guilt, never knowing they existed. The photographs were what destroyed him. 3 toddlers with beautiful mixed features, playing in a small apartment where toys were sparse and furniture was second-hand, his daughter holding a doll with a missing arm. His sons sharing a single tablet, taking turns with the patience of children who'd learned early that resources were limited. They should have had everything. Instead, they had a mother who worked herself to exhaustion and a father who didn't know they existed. Until now. Amara knew she'd made a mistake the moment she returned to Seoul. Japan had been safe, anonymous, a place where Yongkwan's power couldn't reach. But her mother had gotten sick. Terminal. The kind of cancer that gave you months, not years. And despite everything, despite the danger, Amara couldn't let her mother die without meeting her grandchildren. So she'd come back. Taken a risk. Assumed 3 years was long enough for Yongkwan to forget about her. She'd assumed wrong. The hospital encounter had been disaster incarnate. Seeing him again had brought everything flooding back. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the rage she'd spent 3 years trying to bury. But worse was watching him see Mina, her daughter. Watching recognition dawn in his eyes. Watching him do the math. She'd barely slept since then. Every sound in the hallway made her jump. Every unknown number on her phone sent her into panic. She'd enrolled the children in daycare under false names, taken a different route to work each day, started researching flights back to Japan. But leaving meant abandoning her dying mother. And she couldn't do that. Not again. "Mommy, why are you sad?" Marcus, her oldest son by 3 minutes, climbed into her lap. At 2 years old, he was already fiercely protective, already reading emotions with uncomfortable accuracy. "I'm not sad, baby, just tired." She kissed his forehead, breathing in his little boy's scent, juice boxes and sunshine and innocence. "Was that man at the hospital bad?" Mason, the younger twin, asked from the floor where he was building blocks with his sister. You looked scared. Children saw too much, understood too much. That man is nobody, she said firmly. Nobody we need to worry about. But that night, after the children were finally asleep, Mina in her toddler bed, the boys in their shared room, Amara stood at her window and stared at the Seoul skyline. Somewhere in that glittering cityscape, Jung Kwan was awake, thinking about her, about them. And despite everything, despite the betrayal and the pain and the 3 years of struggle, a traitorous part of her heart still beat faster at the thought of him. She hated herself for it. The flowers arrived on day 3. Not just any flowers. 3 dozen roses, 1 dozen for each child. White for Mina, blue for Marcus, red for Mason. Each bouquet included a card with a single word in elegant script. Sorry. Amara threw them away immediately, but the next day there were more. And the day after that, different flowers each time, orchids, peonies, lily arrangements that must have cost thousands, each with the same single word. Sorry. On day 7, a package arrived. Inside, 3 trust funds. Established in her children's names, each containing $5 million. She nearly threw up. This was Jung Kwan's language. Money, power, grand gestures that proved nothing except that he could buy whatever he wanted. But he couldn't buy her. Couldn't buy their forgiveness. She called the number on the trust fund documents. He answered on the first ring. Amara. Take your money and your flowers and your guilt, she said icily, and leave us alone. I can't do that. You don't have a choice. They're not your children. You gave up that right when you called me nothing. I never said you were nothing. His voice was strained. That conversation, you heard it out of context. I don't care about context, she cut him off. I heard enough. Now stay away from my family. Our family, he corrected quietly. Whether you like it or not, Amara, those children are half mine, and I've already missed 2.5 years of their lives because of my stupidity. I won't miss another day. You'll miss whatever I decide you miss. I have full custody. You have nothing. Then let me earn something. His voice changed, softer, more vulnerable. Let me prove I've changed, that I can be what they need, what you needed 3 years ago. It's too late. It's never too late. Not for them. They deserve a father, Amara. Even if that father is a fool who destroyed everything. She hung up. Hands shaking, heart racing, because the worst part was that he was right. The second hospital encounter happened by design, not accident. Amara's mother, Grace Thompson, had been moved to hospice care. The cancer had progressed faster than anyone expected. She had weeks now, maybe days. Amara sat beside her bed, holding her mother's thin hand, watching her sleep. The children were with a neighbour, the same elderly Korean woman who'd basically adopted them, who charged nothing for childcare because she loved having young life in her apartment. You can't hide from him forever, baby girl. Amara jumped. Her mother's eyes were open, lucid for the first time in days. I'm not hiding. I'm protecting them. From their father. Grace's voice was weak but sharp. Or from your own broken heart. Mama, don't. I'm dying, Amara. I get to say what I want. Grace squeezed her hand. And what I want to say is this. That man hurt you. Broke you. I understand. But those babies deserve to know their daddy. And from what you've told me, he's been trying. Trying isn't enough. It's a start. Grace coughed and Amara reached for water. After she sipped, Grace continued, You think you're punishing him. But you're also punishing them. And yourself. He called me nothing, Mama. Said I wasn't his type. That he'd end it soon. And you left before hearing his explanation. Before giving him a chance to fight for you. Grace's eyes were knowing. You ran. Because you were scared. Because loving him made you vulnerable. And you've never been good with vulnerable. Amara's throat tightened. You don't understand? I understand perfectly. Your father left us when you were 3. I spent 20 years afraid to love anyone again. 20 years alone because I was too scared to trust. Grace's grip tightened. Don't make my mistakes, baby. Don't let fear steal your chance at love. It's not love. It was never love. It was just... If it was just anything, you wouldn't have run so far. Wouldn't have hidden so completely. Wouldn't still get that look in your eyes when you talk about him. Before Amara could respond, a commotion erupted in the hallway. Voices. Argument. Then the door opened. Yongkwan stood there, holding 3 balloons, 1 for each child, and looking more uncertain than she'd ever seen him. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I know I'm not welcome, but I needed to pay my respects to the woman who raised the person I love. The world stopped. Love. He'd said love. Grace smiled weakly. Come in, young man, let's have a conversation. Mama, no. Hush. My house, my rules, even if my house is a hospital bed. Grace gestured to the chair on her other side. Sit. Talk. Both of you. And no running away until I say so. For the next hour, in a hospice room that smelled of antiseptic and death, Grace Thompson mediated the conversation her daughter had been avoiding. Kwan explained the phone call. His friend had been mocking him, saying he'd lost his edge, gone soft for some assistant who wasn't even his type. He'd responded defensively, stupidly, saying exactly what his friend wanted to hear, that it was nothing, that he'd end it soon. But I was lying, Kwan said, looking directly at Amara. To him, to myself, because admitting I'd fallen for you meant admitting I was vulnerable, that someone had power over me. In my world, that's weakness. That's how you die. So you killed me instead, Amara said bitterly. Yes. He didn't defend himself. I killed you first because I was a coward, because I've spent my whole life believing that caring about someone makes you weak. That love is a liability, a weapon others can use against you. And now? Now I know that not loving you is the real weakness, that living without you these 3 years has been worse than any bullet, any betrayal, any violence I've ever faced. His eyes held hers. I was wrong, Amara. About everything, and I'll spend the rest of my life proving it if you give me the chance. Grace coughed. Both of them turned to her immediately. She looked tired, but satisfied. Life's too short for grudges, she whispered. Trust me, I'm running out of it. She looked at Amara. Give him a chance, baby. Not for him. For you. For those beautiful babies who deserve to know their daddy. Then she looked at Kwan. And you? You hurt my daughter. I'll haunt you from beyond the grave. Understand? Kwan's lips twitched. Understood, Mom. Good. Now both of you get out. I'm tired. And you, she pointed at Kwan. Pay for her parking. She's broke because you weren't there. Despite everything, Amara almost smiled. 3 days later, Grace Thompson died peacefully in her sleep. The funeral was small, intimate. Just Amara, the children, and a few friends from the old neighborhood who'd flown in from New York, and Yongkwan, who stood in the back, silent, respectful, holding an umbrella over himself in the rain, but making no move to approach. But when Mina wandered away from the graveside, curious about a butterfly, he intercepted her gently. Hello, he said softly, kneeling to her level. Mina tilted her head, studying him with eyes identical to his own. You're the man from the hospital. I am. Mommy says you're nobody. Your mommy is very smart and very right to be angry with me. Why is she angry? How do you explain betrayal to a 2-year-old? Because I made a mistake, a big one, and I hurt her feelings. Mina considered this seriously, then. Did you say sorry? Many times. Then she should forgive you. That's what Mommy tells us. Say sorry and forgive. From the mouths of babes. Your mommy is right about many things. Are you going to be my friend? Kwan's throat tightened. I'd like to be more than your friend, little one, but that's up to your mommy. I think you're nice, Mina decided. You have kind eyes, she hugged him. Quick, innocent. Then ran back to her brothers. Yongkwan stood there in the rain, tears mixing with raindrops, feeling something break open in his chest. That was his daughter, his child, and she'd just given him the first kindness anyone in the Thompson family had offered in 3 years. When he looked up, Amara was watching him, her expression unreadable. But she didn't tell him to leave. The attack came at midnight. Amara woke to the sound of breaking glass. For a heartbeat, she thought she'd dreamed it. Then she heard footsteps, multiple, heavy, professional. Terror shot through her veins like ice. The children. She grabbed the baseball bat she kept by her bed, a holdover from her New York days, and crept into the hallway. The apartment was dark. The footsteps were in the living room, moving toward the bedrooms, toward her babies. She didn't think, didn't strategize, just moved. Burst into the living room, swinging, caught the first intruder across the shoulder. He grunted, surprised. She swung again. "Run!" she screamed toward the bedrooms. "Marcus, take your brother and sister and run!" But there were 3 intruders. Too many. One grabbed the bat. Another grabbed her, slammed her against the wall hard enough to knock the breath from her lungs. "Where is he?" the man hissed in Korean. "Where's Yongkwan?" She tasted blood. "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie. We know about the children. Know he's been here. Tell us where he is and we'll leave you alone." "Go to hell." He raised his fist. She braced for impact. It never came. The apartment door exploded inward. Jung-Kwan entered like a demon from hell itself. No hesitation, no mercy, pure violence. The first attacker went down from a punch that sounded like breaking bones. The second reached for a gun. Kwan twisted his wrist until it snapped, the man's scream cut off by a brutal elbow to the throat. The third tried to run. Didn't make it past the door. In 30 seconds, it was over. 3 professional attackers neutralized by one man moving with lethal precision. Kwan turned to Amara, breathing hard, eyes wild. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, still in shock. "The children." "In their rooms. I told them to hide." He moved past her, checked each bedroom. Found all 3 children huddled in their closet, terrified but unharmed, scooped them up in his arms, all 3 at once, holding them against his chest like they might disappear. "It's okay," he murmured. "You're safe. I promise. You're safe now." "Who are you?" Marcus asked, wide-eyed. Kwan looked at Amara over the children's heads, a question in his eyes. She should have said nobody. Should have maintained the lie, but her mother's words echoed, "Life's too short for grudges." "He's your father," she heard herself say. "His name is Yongkwan." 3 little faces turned to him, curious, awed, confused. "Our daddy?" Mina asked. Kwan's voice broke. "Yes, sweetheart, your daddy." "Where were you?" Mason asked, with the blunt honesty of children. "Lost," Kwan answered truthfully. "But I'm here now, and I'm never leaving again." Amara's vision blurred with tears she refused to shed, because this was what she'd feared. This. Exactly. This. The moment her children looked at their father and saw him as their hero. The moment forgiveness became inevitable. The moment she lost her last defense against loving him again. An hour later, the children were asleep in a 5-star hotel suite Kwan had secured. Security posted at every entrance. His best men on rotation. The apartment was now a crime scene. Police crawling over it, taking statements, asking questions Kwan answered with terrifying calm. Amara sat on the hotel balcony, staring at Seoul's nighttime skyline, wondering how her life had spiraled so completely out of control in just 3 days. "They were after me." She didn't turn. Kwan's voice came from behind her, heavy with guilt. "Rival organization. They've been trying to find leverage against me for months. Someone told them about you, about the children." "So, this is my life now?" she asked bitterly. "Looking over my shoulder, wondering if my children will be used as weapons against you?" "No." He moved beside her. "This is your life now. Protected, safe, with resources you never had before, because I'm not letting you face this world alone anymore. I never asked for your protection. I know. You asked for nothing, which is why you deserve everything. She finally looked at him. Really looked. He had bruises forming on his knuckles, blood on his shirt that probably wasn't his, but his eyes were clear, determined, absolutely certain. I can't do this, she whispered. Can't live in your world, can't raise my children in violence and danger. Then I'll leave my world. Simple, direct, devastating. She laughed bitterly. You can't just leave. That's not how it works. Watch me. He turned to face her fully. I've been building my exit strategy for 3 years, ever since you left, because some part of me always knew, if I ever found you again, I'd have to choose, my empire or my soul. That's insane. That's love. He stepped closer. Amara, I can't undo the past. Can't give you back the 3 years you struggled alone, can't erase the words that destroyed us. But I can give you the future, clean, safe, away from all of this. And your enemies, they'll just let you walk away. His smile was cold, dangerous. They don't get a vote. Meaning what? Meaning I've been planning this for a long time, transferring power, eliminating threats, building something new, something legitimate. It'll take 6 months to complete. 6 months to burn down the old world and build a new one. 6 months? She shook her head. You think I'll just wait around while you play crime lord? No. He pulled something from his pocket, a key. I think you'll take this. It's to a house. Outside Seoul. Secure. Beautiful. Big enough for 3 children and a mother who deserves better than a 2-bedroom apartment. She stared at the key like it might bite her. It's in your name. Only yours. No strings. No obligations. Just a place where my children can be safe while I finish what I started. Why? Because they're mine. Because you're... He stopped. Started again. Because I love you. Have loved you since that first drunken night when you stumbled into my house and brought me back to life. And I'll spend however long it takes proving I deserve a second chance. Amara took the key, fingers trembling. 6 months, she said quietly. You have 6 months to become someone worthy of them, someone safe, someone who won't get them killed. And then we'll see. It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't rejection either. It was something more dangerous. Hope. That night, alone in his penthouse, Jung-kwan made a phone call. It's done, he said in Japanese. Begin phase 2. On the other end, his most trusted ally, the man who'd helped hide Amara in Japan for 3 years, confirmed receipt of the order. Phase 2 meant war. Meant systematically destroying every enemy who'd threatened his family. Meant burning down his empire so completely that nothing remained except ashes and lessons. But also meant building something new, a legitimate business empire, clean money, legal power, a world where his children could grow up without fear. It would take 6 months, maybe more, and it would be the bloodiest 6 months of his life. But as he looked at the photo on his phone, Amara and the triplets, captured secretly by his security team, Jung-kwan knew it was worth it. Every drop of blood, every sacrifice, every enemy destroyed. Because at the end of those 6 months, he would return to them. Not as a crime lord, but as a man worthy of their love. Or he would die trying. 3,000 miles away in a darkened office, someone else looked at the same photo. A man whose face bore scars from a deal gone wrong 5 years ago. The same deal where Jung-kwan had nearly died. The same bullets that had stolen his ability to feel pleasure. Until Amara. This man smiled coldly, marking the photo with a red X. Found you, he whispered. Finally found you both. Because Jung-kwan wasn't the only one who'd been searching for 3 years. Wasn't the only one with unfinished business. And while Kwan focused on protecting his family, he'd forgotten the most important rule of his dangerous world. The dead don't always stay buried, sometimes they come back, And when they do, they bring hell with them. To be continued. Drop a comment if you're ready for part 4. Tell us, should Amara forgive him? Or is Jungkwan's redemption doomed before it begins? And who is the scarred man from the past? Subscribe to Echoes of Law so you don't miss the explosive finale where blood, love, and vengeance collide in ways you never saw coming.